Board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. It's episode 47, our third season. It's the #1 Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming. Our special guest tonight, Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games. You know them from Spy Club, Fox in the Forest, Lanterns, World's Fair 1893. We're going to be talking about those. That's on our show tonight. Gumbo Live, a proud member of Punchboard Media. Check out some of our other fine members, like the brand new show, The Shuffle. Brandon's got a whole host of contributors. It's a podcast magazine where people are going to do reviews, game news, even stories and opinion. The first issue is out, so make sure you check that out. Punchboard Media, where we all bring something to the table. Also, hey, let's thank our fine friends at GameNerds.com. Game Nerds, they've been providing great prices, awesome customer service, and speedy delivery right there from Plano, Texas, their home site. I bought a Zool from them, and ever since then, I've been impressed. So want you to check them out. They're helping us out with some of our game contests this season. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to thank, again, GameNerds.com for coming on board Gumbo Live. Hit me up on social media at Twitter at Board Game Gumbo, or on Facebook at Board Game Gumbo, and we'll be looking for your questions on the chat tonight. But let's get to our guest right away, Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games. Man, so glad to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Randy, give us the elevator pitch. I know you know what that is. Give us the elevator pitch about who is Randy Hoyt and what is Foxtrot Games.
Yeah, so I'm the owner of Foxtrot Games. Started, what's it been, 5 years ago with our first Kickstarter campaign.
Right.
It's tiny indie publisher. My day
Relic
job,
Adventures.
yeah, Relic Expedition was the first game. That was one I designed, and my business partner and stepbrother did the artwork for it. So we were kind of early on in the days of Kickstarter and board games. Not quite at the beginning, but some of the early stuff up there. And then after that, got that all the way to backers and started signing games from other designers, and some games we put on Kickstarter, some games we haven't. So our best-selling games, probably Lanterns, The Harvest Festival, as you mentioned. That was our second game that we funded on Kickstarter. I do this on the side. I'm a web developer by day, signing games and doing art direction and development to bring these games to market.
It's clear that you're a web developer and that I'm not, because when you check out the two websites, Foxtrot Games, even randyhoyt.com versus Board Game Gumbo, it's clearly obvious which one of us is a web developer.
Nice.
Kudos to you. That is a fantastic site. I'll give you a quick ranking. My #1 game from Foxtrot is World's Fair 1893.
Oh, nice.
One, I like the designer. He just consistently puts out great games, except for that one that I call Calculator the Machine game, Sentient. I don't know if you played it or not. But
I played it once, yeah.
Yeah, not up my alley. But the World's Fair 1893, fantastic game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun working with Alex on that one. So when he pitched it to us, it didn't have a theme, or it had a different theme. And so he and I worked together and did a lot of research.
Yeah, so that's what I heard. You actually changed the theme and did some development. And that's one of the games. I know Lanterns, you did a lot of development work also, but I've heard on a different podcast that the World's Fair was where you recognized, hey, maybe some of your talent lies a little bit differently than designing games.
Yeah, so designing Relic Expedition, I did the design and the publishing. I didn't necessarily love designing. The idea of looking at a blank canvas and trying to come up with game mechanisms is kind of daunting and scary. And I've tried designing some other games, and they just don't seem to take off. I don't know what it is. I always design games that are too small, and they don't have enough interestingness in them when I start on them. So,
and if you're going to publish a game, you've got to be passionate about it, right?
Yeah. So I loved that after we raised the money on Kickstarter, doing all the art direction and the game production and making all those decisions, like what size is the box, how many punch boards do we need, what size do they need to be to fit in the box, kind of all that. Like, that's a lot of fun, like what I call product design now. So I thought, after I funded Relic Expedition, delivered a game to backers, I'd seen some other designers go the publishing route like this. So I started looking around for other games, and Lanterns was actually the one I found next. And working with Chris Chung on that, doing art direction, doing some development, and just trying to get the right packaging size and what is the component count and what's the price going to be and all that. Getting all that figured out, that was a lot of fun. And after after Lanterns and doing a successful Kickstarter and then partnering with Renegade Game Studios to bring that to retail, like really found my niche there.
Now, I did a little show prep. You and I talked about it right before the show. I actually always like to find out who my guest is, and I was surprised. Not only are you a web developer, I mean, you've had some other things apparently that I think you can bring to the table. One of these pictures that I found, Captain Randy Hoyt. Is it?
I don't think that's me.
Well, it said Randy Hoyt, so I figured. No.
Yeah, so, funny story on that. So when I first got into web, that is not me. I am not an outdoorsman. But when I first started looking to get a website, I was at randyhoyt.net, and randyhoyt.com was a site that hosted these fishing tours. And I was bummed that as a developer, I couldn't get my own domain name with my own name. And one day I just checked it, and it was available, and I guess the guy let it lapse. So I was able to snag that up.
I also did not realize, Randy, and I'm sure this is going to be a game that you're going to produce, that you were also a bodybuilder at one time. Is that right?
I don't know about that. I've never heard of that Randy Hoyt.
Well, there is a Randy Hoyt that's won one of the Mr. America fitness competition. I was like, man, this guy, Randy, he's multi-talented. He can do everything, man.
No, I'm not into that. And there is a guy named Randy Hoyt that I guess he gave out my email address by mistake one time, and he sells hot tubs and swimming pools, I think. So every now and then I get emails asking for quotes on hot tubs and things.
Tom Bassel is always looking for unique themes, and I don't think we have a hot tub game yet. Hey, we got a couple of guests, a couple of viewers checking in. Marshall Wells says, hey, good evening, and he actually owns Relic Expedition. Marshall's one of the guys from Sin Law right here in Central Louisiana and runs a fantastic game group there. So I can actually drive just an hour to go play Relic Expedition.
Excellent.
Steve O'Rourke says, World's Fair 1893, a good game and looks cool on the table. That's the name father from the Dukes of Dice. He'll be helping us out with the show tonight. You agree? Yeah. It looks good on the table. Is that one of the things you look for when you look to sign a game for Foxtrot?
Not necessarily what I look for when we sign it, but we do try to figure out how to make it look good on the table as part of our development. Adam McIver did the board layout, I guess is what you'd call for that, making it a Ferris wheel and putting the regions around it. Beth Sobel did the artwork on the board, and then Adam did the graphic design on that. So yeah, I was really happy with how it did not have the Ferris wheel at first because it didn't have that theme, but we had a playtester suggest that, and we're really happy with how that sort of all came together.
If I've got it right, Adam also did the Ex Libris game, and isn't that Adam's game?
Yeah,
right?
Well, he's the game designer on that. I don't know what his role was in the art and graphic design and art direction stuff. So I know Jackie Davis did the artwork. I don't know who did the graphic design. I don't know what his role was in that.
I am not sure either. So Randy, tell me, you've played some spicy games here in 2018. What's some good games that my viewers would the crew to Gumbo would like to play? You got any ideas for us?
Yeah, well, one of the games that I've been enjoying the most lately is a bit divisive on it. It's The Mind.
Really?
Yeah, The Mind. A lot of people seem to like it, but not everyone. Not everyone likes The Mind. So,
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. I'm talking to my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games, and he wants to talk about The Mind. So before we talk about it, let's place our hands on the table.
All right, let's
focus and make sure we've got it right. No, seriously, I want to hear your experience, and then I'm going to chime in with mine.
Yeah, no. So in The Mind, there's a deck of cards numbered 1 through 100. You deal every player in the first level. You deal every player 1, and your goal is simple. It's just to play them into the center in ascending order, but you can't talk. And so the main way you're trying to read your other players, it's cooperative. You're trying to read the other players and think, okay, if they've got a 5, they'd have played it by now. If they had a 10, they'd have played it by now. But I've got a 24. If you had a 23, would you have played it by now? And so that kind of just trying to read the other players, trying to put yourself in their shoes. It's really, it feels like empathy is sort of the biggest emotion I get playing. Like you're trying so hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes, figure out how you would be playing if you were them. Is this a long enough time? And it's simple. The game doesn't seem like it would even be that fun, but I've just had a great time. After level 1, you do it with more cards. So everybody gets 2 cards, and then 3 cards, and then 4 cards. There's just enough game around it, around the like the what I call a lifeline or like a shuriken. You can there's some extra action you can take that'll help you along, and you can lose a certain number of lives before the game ends, and you're trying to get to a certain level based on the player count.
Does the addition of the shuriken and the other extra bonuses, does that make it a game for you, or is it still an experience like some critics have called it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about textbook definition, even without those, it's still, there are rules, there are actions you take, there's win loss, at least a goal. I think that the rules do, the extra mechanisms do really add a lot of extra tension around. It's like, is now the time to use the shuriken? Like, is now the time just to throw away a card? It'll cost us a life, but it might clear out enough of the other cards. So it adds just enough meat to it, I think, that it really helps the game along.
Do you play with the put your hands down, stare at each other, and focus?
Oh yeah, and there's a rule you can put your hand in the middle to stop everything, and so we make a big deal about that. We're like resyncing our minds and like really getting into it. I mean, at some level, it's the game as a whole sort of seems like an illusion, because you're like, you're playing a card and people watching you might think you were doing some pre-choreographed thing that's not really playing a game, but like really getting into the spirit. I do think it takes a little bit of, the players like buying into this, like, hey, we're going to sync and read each other's minds. And like, when you kind of go along with it, it's part of the fun for sure. But yeah, we get really into the whole experience.
2 big recommendations from Alex Goldsmith, my buddy from the Dukes of Dice. Steph Hodge was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she kept raving and raving about the game. So I finally broke down. I like to usually buy the games from the publisher, from a distributor, and you just can't get it unless you get it on Amazon DE. But I realized that I had 6 NIMT. It's got 104 cards. Yeah. I could use the extras as the little bonus levels. So I went on BGG, did the PDF. I told my wife, I said, Alex says we got to play this game. Now, my wife does not like role-playing games. She likes the Euro aspects of near and far and above and below, but hates all the storytelling. So I popped the game out. And I mean, I just insisted every time that we had to just stare at each other before we lifted up our hands. And she just kept looking at me like, if we have to do this all night, I am not playing this game. So we got to level 4. I thought it was interesting. I think it would be more fun, although harder with more people. 2 people. We got to level 4 without much trouble. And I know that's not winning, but we got to level 4 without much trouble, and she got kind of bored. So we've never played it again, but I want to leave it for a bigger setting. Have you played it with various play counts?
Mostly I played it with 4, and I think players feeding off each other really adds to it. I'm trying to think of what my 2-player games have been. I don't think I played it with 3. I played it with 2 and 4. I've won it on 4. I have not won it on 2.
There was a lot of uncomfortable silence for a long-time married couple staring at each other to play. And really, it's the first card. We didn't have much trouble after that. Yeah, it's nice. Who's going to play the first card when I've got a 30 and she's got a 40, Yeah. Who's going to make that first move? So I'm not, as you said, from a textbook definition, it's a game. But is there strategy in it and all those things? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of strategy, I suppose, because the big skill is just learning to read each other, learning how to communicate without communicating, and to just sort of feel the empathy in the room and sync on each other's minds and wavelengths.
That's what I was going to say, to mind meld. That's what you're really trying to do there.
It is. And it's, I don't know, when I talk about it, I still feel like this can't really be this much fun because it's sort of silly. But man, it gets really intense. And I remember the first time we won, like it was definitely a stand up and high five moment, which I don't get a lot even in the other more Euro-y cooperative games that I play. So
small box game though, easy to take around. That's one that if I do pick it up, I could just throw it in a backpack. And if it's the right crowd, it seems like it would be one that maybe came out. On Wednesday nights, once a month, we do a little board games and brew type thing. And maybe that's a good one for a pub table when we've had a couple of root beers. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd definitely give it a try. Like I said, I've won it with 4 players. So, I mean, I think that's probably a better player count.
I'm going to stare in Dave Dugas' eyes like this until we mind meld. That's what's going to happen, Dave.
Yeah.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo. I've got my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games talking about Spicy Games of 2018. He brought up the mine. What else do you have for me? What's another good game for us to play?
The other one we got that we've been playing a lot lately is the Seventh Continent. So my son and
big
I.
game.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
Yeah, total opposite from what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so I backed it in the second Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
So we got it, April, I think? Yeah, so my son and I have been playing through that. We've done a couple of the curses so far. Man, it's an interesting game. It's for those that don't know, like you get this box with 1,000 cards, and there's a map that's all in the box. And so when you're on a square card, and it'll say, this way is card 121, and this way is card 474, and you've got these challenges you got to do. So you're constantly drawing cards. You got like a timer deck that has all these. It has equipment and character traits and curses in it.
Sort of a Pathfinder-like system. If you've played the adventure card game,
I'm not familiar with that one. I've not played that one as much. So, but you're taking actions and moving around and finding. You're hunting for animals, and then you got to make a fire and cook the meat to get more time. And there's a big challenge you're trying to solve. There's some curse you've got to lift. So I guess this is supposed to be some mythical seventh continent, and you're there, and you got this curse you've got to lift. So like the one we're doing right now, we've got to find all these, I guess, idols or sacrifice type things and offer these offerings to the guardians of the island. And we've got to, we got to be getting experience points, but we're exploring this map and we've got some clues about where to go. The map is gigantic. I believe if you got all the cards out, it would be like 5 feet by 9 feet is what I've heard. We aren't exploring all those regions. We don't need to go into all the regions for for the curse we're on right now. And so we play, in an hour or two session at a time. We're about 4 hours into our third curse, I think. It's crazy. I really like. It's definitely a heavier, more complex game than he and I usually play together, or even that I usually play. I usually don't play games that take like 8 hours. But
I've seen it compared, favorably, unfavorably with Gloomhaven from the standpoint that it's big box campaign, hours and hours of playtime from one game. Have you played both, or you're able to compare?
I haven't played Gloomhaven. No, I haven't played Gloomhaven. It's, from what I can tell, it's more of a dungeon crawl, and this is more of like an adventure type. Okay. I don't.
Gloomhaven is a dungeon crawl from that aspect. Yeah. It's campaign based. You can level up your characters, through this little deck building mechanic. Yeah. Are there characters in Seventh Continent?
Yeah, there are, but it doesn't feel like we're not really like role playing or building our character up over multiple games. It's just we have certain things that we can do better than the other players. So some of the skills we'll draw from the deck or go to our character. So you might get like, oh, I can take this skill. I have these skills. So far, the characters haven't seemed too different. It's not like, as we play, we're not. We're building tools. It has a system for building this equipment up that will help you with future actions. And so, like, I've got some tools and my son's got some tools, but it's not. And they as you use them, they sort of disintegrate, and eventually, you'll use up the tools, and you have to get new ones. So. But yeah, as we're going, like it had the reference card has like 30 actions, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be too crazy. But they're all pretty straightforward as far as what you do. So you'll find a card, and it'll have an icon. It's like you can do this action. You got to draw some cards out of the timer deck. You got to get this many successes, and then you read the white box. And if you fail, you read the text in the black box. You'll often be drawing out more cards, So a lot of it is the surprise of what you're discovering as you go. So you're sort of being told a story about about this island. As we've been going back in, back in parts of the island we've been in before. So some of it's not as surprising, although every time you reveal a new card, there's like a random challenge you have to beat before you go in there. So it's not exactly the same every time. And then many of the places, it'll say get one of the 250 cards. So there's like 10 or 20 of them, and you'll randomly pick one. So you might find a different kind of thing each time. So even
that's the best thing I like about it.
What I really liked about it so far is just the sense of discovery and exploration. So as you go, there's new things that you'll be finding, and some of the things that you do, I don't want to give any spoilers, but they're really surprising. It'll be like, hey, go get out this card, and you'll pull this card out. And like my son and I alternate reading them. And so there's sometimes, he almost cried reading one card, and he like got real like nauseated at one card, and like,
wow,
the stuff that you can find, and it's really weird as a parent watching your son reading this card, and you're like, maybe I should be reading this before he's reading this. But just seeing the like real emotional reactions as you explore. On this particular curse, I think we've explored everywhere. Now it's just go like scavenger hunt, go do the stuff. So, it might get a little long. This particular curse, I feel like, is going to probably be a little long. And I don't know how well the game's going to hold up over, we're on our third curse and we're still discovering new things. I think we've got 5 curses in the box, and then there's some expansion curses I've got coming in the next wave. We'll see how it holds up over all those plays. But man, we've really enjoyed our 2.5 play. I mean, it's way more sessions. I mean, we've probably put in 15 hours, probably, I would guess. So,
well, as Dave Dugas says, we at the Gumbo, we love our campaign scenario-based games, and Seventh Continent sounds right up our alley from that perspective.
Yeah, we've been really enjoying it. It's not the typical stuff we play. We usually play much shorter, more family weight games, lighter games than this. But yeah, we're having a good time with it. I mean, and the thing with the multi-session or campaign games is that you leave it out, and you come in even if you don't have time to play one day. You're like, oh yeah, let's look at this, and you can talk about it over breakfast, the next day. Like, I really like the multi-session campaign type games from that aspect of it, that it's this narrative that's bigger than just that one session, and it kind of goes with you throughout the rest of your life.
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. Got my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games. You do have a game that you think we should avoid, a little voodoo that our viewers should not play.
Well, I wouldn't
Spill the beans, Randy. Let me hear about it.
I wouldn't even go that far. A game that I did not enjoy that a number of other people have. I mean, This is an award-winning game.
Fair.
What are we calling this in English? Quacks. of Quedlinburg?
Quacks of Quedlinburg. That's what BGG is calling it. We know that North Star Games is coming out with the German, and by the same guy as The Mind, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he had 3 games up for nomination, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I have it up here, but also Trey Fouté, Ganshan Clever, which Stronghold Games is coming out with. An amazing output. Never heard of the guy before, and he has 3 games, all of them unnominated.
Yeah, so this game, I had an awful experience. In fact, as more and more people keep talking about how much they love it, I fear I must have played it wrong. But, and I don't usually like to talk bad about games because it's all very subjective. The whole thing. Some games are for some people and some not for others. So, but this one has such critical acclaim, and I had such a bad experience. So I figured it's worth mentioning here. The game is a bag builder. So you're buying tokens. You start with a handful of tokens in your bag, and you're buying more, and you end up with a lot of tokens in the bag by the end. And then each round, it's a push your luck. So you pull them out and resolve them and take some actions until you get a certain number that will cause you to bust. So there's a bunch of tokens in there at first. And as you pull them out, if you get too many of those, you'll bust. And so you want to stop before you do that. But the more positive things you draw, the further along you get on this track. And you're earning victory points, and you're buying money, or you're earning money that you can then use to upgrade your bag. If you
everything I've heard is positive, and there's Steve O'Rourke chiming in. He's heard such good things about this game from Wolfgang Warsch. Interested in why no for the Quacks. Randy, what's the no part?
Well, so imagine if you were playing a deck building game like Dominion, and after every hand you reshuffled your deck instead of going through your whole deck and getting to play every card. So, I mean, you could just draw all the bust tokens right at the beginning, or you could draw all your powerful cards. And the one round that was particularly bad for me, I had 6 tokens in there that would all let me draw more tokens and basically run out my whole bag and get tons of points. And I had 1 that would bust me. And I, of course, drew the one that would bust me. And even when we were talking about the game, I was like, I can't imagine that this is going to work. Like, that bag building and push your luck would go together. And, the people who, I mean, when you looked at our final scores, you could tell how many times people had busted, because the people who busted none were together. The person who busted once was, 8 points, 10 points back. And then people who busted twice were another 8 or 10 points back. And so I don't know. I couldn't get why people liked it. So the what you're doing to put the stuff in your bag, using the money to buy the different things, was cool. And the push your luck, it feels good when you push your luck and you draw the right thing and you make the right choice to stop. But when you bust, this is just pretty deflating and pretty awful. And when I heard it taught, I was like, if I win this, I still hope I will appreciate that if you bust and lose, that's not going to be fun. And,
Right.
unfortunately, I was the one who busted. So, again, a lot of people really like it. There is a strategy in how you build your bag, which things you buy and when you spend what money. So I just thought the randomness of drawing and busting, it was just, the game was too long, I think, for me, too many turns, too many rounds for that to be such a strong element.
So the payoff just wasn't there. And that's, it's hard to get right now anyway. So I'm hoping that Dave and I can play it at BGG and find out. I'll tell you, it's been on my list mainly because of the way Warsh kind of came out of nowhere. But also, I've enjoyed the bag building games I've played so far. And I like push your luck as a mechanism.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. It seemed like a weird mix of things to me, to the strategy of your bag building, the length of time, and just how bad busting would be. I mean, and there were even the time when I was sitting there like, well, if I bust right now, I'll be totally out of it. But I can't afford to stop either. Like, if I stop, I'm probably out of it too. So, I don't know. Like I said,
maybe another play.
Yeah, maybe another play. I may be playing it wrong. So I learned it at a con, so I should probably get the rulebook out myself and make sure. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed.
Are you going to BGG Con?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be there.
Maybe we can check that out. Hey, there's Jay Peak checking in. Jay's got a podcast, Board Games Insider, where he talks about how to get Board Games Outsider. Oh, sorry, Jay. I think it's Board Games Outsider. Trying to get into the business of publishing or doing parts of the games, and he also has a great YouTube channel. Jay's checking in. Hey, fellas, how's it going? Hey, Jay, have you played any Foxtrot games? If any of you have, let's hear that. In fact, speaking of Foxtrot games. Randy, you've got a couple of games out right now that I know you wanted to talk about. Let me see if I can pull up something. One of the ones that I'm really interested in from Foxtrot Games, because you talked about that campaign element that you liked in Seventh Continent. I'm imagining this next game is going to be smaller than that. BJ from Board Game Gumbo talking with my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games about his release right now, Spy Club. Give us a pitch about Spy Club. Why would the Gumbo be interested in this one?
Yeah, so Spy Club is a cooperative game for 2 to 4 players. You're playing as young detectives trying to solve neighborhood mysteries. You've got a hand of these clue cards in front of you, and these represent sort of the clues you're studying right now.
They're Encyclopedia Brown or the Three Investigators sort?
Yeah, exactly. That kind of a vibe. It's a cooperative game. You're manipulating the cards in front of you. You've got, like I said, a hand of 3 cards. They're double-sided with clues on the back, so you'll be flipping them over. Trying to find a set of 5. So in this picture here, they're working on trying to get 5 blues into the middle. Once you do, you'll solve one aspect of the mystery. So there's 5 aspects to the mystery. So think kind of like Clue where there's 3, but here we've got suspect, motive, location, object involved in the crime that was committed. And so you are managing your cards, trying to get them together cooperatively into the center to solve an aspect. And there's a suspect that's moving around, moving through your cards, actually triggering bad events. So in sort of a standard cooperative mode, you take your actions, then you do the bad stuff that happen, and you're trying to then solve all 5 aspects of the crime before one of the many different timers of the game run out. It takes about 45 minutes to play. We say ages 10 and up is the target age for that.
Oh, so it's good for families then.
Yeah. It's. I mean, there are kids on the cover, which is like a lot of people think it's just for kids, but it's definitely meant for adults. It's pretty meaty for a family game. I guess there's a bit of stuff that you're juggling, and then after you play, it's got a campaign modes like you were talking about. So we saw some of the rise in things like legacy games and these longer campaigns, and we wanted to figure out a way to make something like that would bring that experience to family, something smaller. And so in this, there's a 5-game campaign structure. So you'll play a game, and then you'll unlock some additional rules or story elements. And it'll be based on what happened in that case. And so you'll unlock a new module, then you'll play another game. And so you'll do that 5 times. You'll play 4 of these new modules that will add new challenges, new rules, new character abilities, new pieces of equipment, new bad things that happen. And so you'll be playing your campaign, you'll play 5 games, and you'll have unlocked 4 of these new modules. You'll get a score, so it's kind of like giving you a letter grade, like you're in school. So it's 100 points possible. And then when you're done with that, you can pack it all back up. You can put all the campaign cards back into the campaign deck, and you can start again, and you can go down a different path. So the game includes 40 modules total, which gives you enough for 10 campaigns that are all with different challenges, all unique things. And so if you and I were to sit down and play, if I was going to play my first campaign and you were going to play your first campaign, we would see 4 different modules because the way they come out is a bit organic, which leads to some emergent storytelling. And so, everybody will have different experiences if they play a couple of campaigns. And so, there'll be fun things to talk about, like, oh, we found out the neighbor was involved in our master crime, and that led us to this place in the story, in this part of the challenges.
You got the seal of approval from the Game Geek Ninja. Looks like Jeremy Davis checking in. He says, Spy Club is incredible. It kept me and Eric, and I'm assuming he's talking about Eric Yurko. I don't know if you know Eric from What's Eric Playing, up until 2:30 p.m. or a.m.? I'm guessing
a.m. a.m., yes. I remember they played a prototype before it came out, before the Kickstarter, and they were live tweeting their campaign. So we were
that must have been kind of cool.
Yeah, we were following along on Twitter watching their campaign, and we were like, oh, they unlocked the hunger module. They found that the motive was hunger, and so they, and people will post pictures, and we can tell which module they're playing because of how they've got set up or what extra pieces they have found. And,
I tweet all the time when we do stuff at the Gumbo or we do our little Sunday play test or anything like that. Do you guys really look at all of these people? I mean, you must see hundreds of photos a month of people playing. Do you still get a thrill when people are out there playing your game in the wild? People you've never heard of or ever met or don't even know how they found your game. Is that still a thrill to you?
Yes, it is. Even, what's it been, 5 years, I guess, since I've had games released? I mean, it still is. So, when people tag us and I see photos of the game in play and people talking about people I've never met, like it really is a joy to get to know that something that I've spent hundreds, thousands of hours on has hit someone's table and it's brought them together with friends and family. I mean, I've got so many good stories. I mean, one of the best ones that stands out is when Lanterns came out. Somebody posted that they were playing it. Her mom had to go into the hospital, and so they're playing Lanterns on the little hospital table, the little fold. And just talking about how it was a tough time and they were nervous and her mom ended up being okay. But they didn't know that at the time and they were really nervous. And she thanked the board game community that Lanterns could bring peace and calm and harmony to them in a stressful situation. And it's you just can't get to, it doesn't take very many of those to be this is what I should be doing. So
how much is Steve O'Rourke checking in? The name father says, was just thinking Encyclopedia Brown. Good call, BJ. So how much was it influenced by all those books that I read as a youth? Encyclopedia Brown, The Three Investigators. I love those. Scholastic used to have this little I think it was called Scholastic, had this little paper magazine that would come to our school. And if there was a Three Investigators novel, I was checking it off.
Nice. So I grew up reading a lot of Encyclopedia Brown and Hardy Boys and Nancy
Hardy Boys.
Drew.
Yep, sure.
Those were some of my staples. And it's my love of these that led me. So the designer of this is Jason Kingsley. He designed the base game or the sort of starting game, and then pitched it to me. And he knew that I loved this theme, And so then he and I worked together to come up with the campaign structure. So I'm listed as a co-designer for all the campaign work. And we had a number of other
badge.
Yeah, there you go. A number of other developers with the content creation. So this was a theme that we all loved and we all experienced. My kids love the A to Z mysteries. That's a current series of those.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and they're great. And part of what makes the campaign and this theme go together is that in those books, there's multiple episodes and they stand alone, but as you go from book to book, Nate the Great's another one that I love. As you go from book to book, you'll meet new characters. Nate gets his dog. That's what made me think of him right there. And so as you play a campaign, it's 5 mysteries and, the characters that you sort of meet. You'll meet some grown-ups that help you along the way. You'll get some character skills. And so, the episodic nature of these books and the episodic nature of the campaign structure really jive well together.
Spy Club. And it is available right now?
Yeah, it is out. So it came out July, I think. So we had it at Gen Con. We previewed it at Origins and then had it at Gen Con. And we'll have it at Essen as well. So you can get a demo there if you'll be at Essen.
Is there expansion content planned?
Well, so we've got some ideas that we're working on. There's 40 modules in there.
There's a lot in there.
So, I think our biggest struggle would be how many people are going to get through all of this and then still want more? And can we make an expansion that you could play alongside as you keep playing? You know, because I mean, you play this game 30 times and you're still going, but would you like to add an expansion at that point? And so, you know, do we want to go with an expansion that requires you to have sort of played all of it first, or do we want one that you can play alongside? And just kind of balancing that. So we've got a couple of ideas. We've got one idea that we've experimented with in kind of an Easter egg place. I won't divulge where that is, but you know, we're starting to kind of explore how we might sort of build on this. So like at your fourth campaign, you could roll the expansion in.
Well, the Game Geek Ninja said those books are librarian approved. So you've done a good job of that. BJ from Board Game Gumbo, I've got my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games. He's got another game that I'm interested in, and here's the reason why. Tom Vassell says it on almost every other Dice Tower episode. Why aren't there more games with the I split, you choose mechanism?
Yeah. And
you've got one, Randy. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this one came out just before Sundae Split. I guess it was after Sundae Split, or Spike Club was on Kickstarter. It's called Sundae Split. It's for 2 to 5 players. It's an I split, you choose mechanism. You're building ice cream sundaes. So you'll draw on your turn. You'll draw a hand of cards. You'll divide them into multiple piles, one for every player, and then everybody else will take turns picking one of the piles, and then you'll get whatever pile is left. So there's a few different scoring ways. You're trying to get all 3 flavors of ice cream. There's strawberry, vanilla, and ice cream. There's whipped cream and sprinkles that you want to get paired. There's cherry that will multiply sort of your tallest stack. But you also have to be careful because there are some vegetables, and nobody wants vegetables on your ice cream sundae.
Not on your ice cream.
No, not on your ice cream. Oh, I mean, the main part that I forgot to mention is when you divide up these piles, there's a certain number of cards that have to go face down.
Okay.
So nobody knows what they are. And so
there might be vegetables inside some of those piles.
Yeah. So that's a big part of the mind games, is sort of like, you know, choosing the wine in front of you, kind of a Princess Bride type scenario. And so
it's my favorite. I don't know if you played Stockpile, but my favorite aspect of it is hiding those bad cards inside what looks like a really juicy pile. And it sounds like you've got that mechanic in Sunday Split.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the core. So, yeah, a lot of people have talked about that they love this. I mean, Jamie Stegmaier just did a video about this game.
His favorite mechanic?
Yeah, that face-down aspect. So, and I've talked to Nate. Nate Bivens is the designer about, you know, when the game sort of came alive and started being fun. Before he pitched it to us, it was that face-down mechanism. So he pitched that to us. We did not retheme that one. That was the theme when it came. And
really?
Yeah, worked with him on, you know, getting how many cards do you start with? How many cards do you put in each pile? How many cards go face down? What they're all worth, and kind of all that. We did some development work with him on that. And that one's out now also, so you can get that at your local game store or online.
And that is Sunday Split from Foxtrot Games. Just 2 quick questions. How many players does it play, and how long does it take?
Yeah, it's 2 to 5 players, and it says 20 minutes on the box. Some say they can do it in 15. So, 15 to 20 minutes.
Randy, we got to thank our friends from Game Nerds here on a good break here. GameNerds.com, the internet game supplier out there in Plano, Texas. I purchased the Zool from a year ago. I've been talking with the owners over there, and they're coming on board to help us out with a contest we have. Just real quick, over the next week, the people that log in and subscribe to Board Game Gumbo on YouTube or on iHeart Board Games, some friends of ours from Baton Rouge who run a fantastic channel. If ever you want to see your game played, send it to iHeart Board Games. They have a blast. They're all actors or in the entertainment. Travis is a director. Jesse is a cinematographer. A lot of the ones that do it are from Theater Baton Rouge. So they really do a good job of broadcasting the game. So that's GameNerds.com. Check them out. They do a fantastic job, and we always want to thank them for that. Hey, Randy, I want to ask you a quick question. Steve and I have been kind of the Namefather and I have been kind of roundtabling the hot games, the most anticipated games that we've looked at. So I want to throw 3 games at you.
All right.
And you tell me which ones. Just put them in order. And anybody watching can also tell us this. These are 3 games that Steve and I are looking at. Some are mine, some are his. I'm calling it Trois Bien. The 3 games. Which one do you say, 1, 2, or 3, that you would want to play or that are most anticipated for you? Terraforming Mars Prelude, the new expansion from Stronghold Games, It's going to be out at Essen. Sprawlopolis, which is a game that Steve's really interested in, that I haven't played. I don't know a lot about it, but it looks like a city building game, and generally I like those games. Or Pandemic Fall of Rome. Rank those for me. What do you think? Which of those three really excite you and you want to play?
Well, I backed Sprawlopolis. I just got it. I have not got it to the table yet. And is Prelude an expansion to Terraforming Mars? It's not a standalone game. It is an expansion.
No, it's the third expansion for it, and it's the one that's the coolest to me because if there's a complaint about Terraforming Mars, and Dave Duga, I am not complaining about Terraforming Mars. I like the game. It's one of Dave's favorite games. But in some ways, it starts a little slow. Prelude kind of jump starts the game and gets everybody right into the action. And from what I understand, actually lowers the playing time by about 30 or 40 minutes.
Oh, interesting. Well, all of those sound good. So I'm going to put Pandemic Fall of Rome at first. I
like it.
I love Pandemic. I actually got a chance to play test this one BGG Con last year, I think.
Oh, okay. Tell us about it. What do you know?
Yeah. So in the game, it's a lot like regular Pandemic in that you are collecting cards and you're trying to meld, fives of the certain color. The disease cubes from Pandemic are the barbarian hordes looking to sack Rome. And so they move. So it's got a few new interesting mechanics. And I've played all of the Pandemic games and love to
They move. Yeah,
so the barbarians, I'm trying to think if the actual cubes move. I don't think the cubes move, but as you place them further and further down, the horde is sort of moving down along this line. So there's 5 different barbarian tribes moving towards Rome. And a city falls, I believe the fall is if it has what would normally be an outbreak. And so if you get, where you would normally place 4 of the same color cube in Rome, it will outbreak, which will be the end of the game. Because if Rome falls, that's the end of the game. And so they're moving, and you're moving around, and you can get legions, which little Roman legionnaires that go with you. They work kind of like, and I didn't play the final version. I played a prototype, so some of this may change, but they work in a way kind of like quarantine markers. If they're in a city and you draw it, then it stops the disease or the cube from getting placed. But to treat the disease, instead of just taking cubes off, you roll dice and engage them in combat. So
I like that.
You have to have your legionnaires with you, and then you roll dice and inflict. That's how you treat the diseases, is by rolling dice and defeating them in battle.
That is Pandemic Fall of Rome. I love what I see on the cover. I like what you're telling me about the game itself. Man, I am interested in this. I really am.
Yeah, so I'll rank that number 1 of the 3. And I'll put Sprawlopolis second. All 3 of these are actually good. I do quite like Terraforming Mars, and I think an expansion that jumpstarts it sounds like it would be perfect.
Well, Steve says Sprawlopolis number 2, Fall of Rome number 1, and the red planet takes a distant bronze. That sounds the same for you?
Yeah. So Sprawlopolis is a small game from Button Shy Games, and you've got I think it's the wallet size 18 card game, and so you're building out a map of a city, and it looks like the cards are divided into 6 regions, like a 2x3 grid, and so you can place them over each other or next to. There's some different ways. I don't know much about it. I did read more about it when it was on Kickstarter, and I backed it, so I think I've got it in here somewhere.
Are you a Button Shy guy? Have you? I
haven't backed too many of their games. I don't think I've played very many of those.
But Ninja says he's played Sprawlopolis, and it's a quick, fun game. The only one I've played actually is Into the Black Forest. I just did it for the crowd surfing on the Dice Tower last week. I liked it. Some of the game group didn't. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think smaller games have a better chance of being hit or miss for people, depending on the group, because they often boil down some bigger game experience into some small bite-sized chunk. And for a lot of people, what I hear about smaller games is like, oh, it's just not enough of that. And so, if you like a 15-minute city builder, that may be just perfect for you, or that may be too small. Like I can see that.
I love small box games. In fact, tile building, tile laying, probably my favorite mechanic. But small box games are to me, give me some of the most joy. We play the Flow of History. It's a tiny little box game that plays in about an hour. We play that constantly in the game group. I started out playing No Thanks and For Sale and all those little games. I just love them. I mean, because they're good for almost anything. They're good for opening up the night. They're good for ending the night. Any of the Oink games are really fun to play, anytime during the night. So
yeah, Colorado is one of my favorites in that category. I mean, that's one we can play all the time. Steve
O'Rourke says another wallet game from Button Shy Games. He's got Circle the Wagons and the Lone Cowboy coming with it. So I've heard a lot of good things about Circle the Wagons. Jason Dinger talks about that game all the time. He's a big fan of that one.
Yeah. I think I see Sprawlopolis. Let me grab it.
Oh, you got it? Okay, good. Anybody else want to rank those three? So far, we just got Steve. I'm going to go. Man, I'm going to go Pandemic Fall of Rome, number 1. Terraforming Mars, number 2, and Sprawlopolis, number 3. Only because I just don't know a lot about Sprawlopolis. I need to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah. So
Steve says he loves small box games. If it's not enough for people, the answer for me is just play more of them. Yeah, gaming tapas. Yeah, he coined the name gaming tapas because he doesn't like filler games, and I've always liked that. It's a little, have a little area of tapas games that you can just pick up and play in 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So the cards look like this.
Okay.
Looks like 4x2. I haven't played it yet. It just arrived.
Solo you there so people can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and so as you get more and more of these cards, I think you can overlay them or line them up with the roads. And then they've got a number of scoring conditions on the back. So it looks like the cards can be used. I don't know. I'm looking stuff up now. It looks like you can use them for either as scoring, something like, these are your sort of objectives on the back, or then the tiles on the front. So I don't know what all I got. I mean, it's funny when you run a Kickstarter, you think everybody reads every word and knows all of the ins and outs. And then you get a game and you're like, oh, I remember, but I don't know what all these things are.
I like Marshall's. Hey, check out Marshall's comment, Randy. They all sound good to me. It's still a little odd to call it pandemic when there aren't any diseases involved in the theme. They should maybe label it as a pandemic engine game. Now, Marshall, I'm sure that's a good comment, and actually I like it. But just to let anybody know that doesn't know, what's really cool about Pandemic is you have the World Championships every year, and the city that hosts the Pandemic World Championships generally gets a game that's designed around the history of that region. You had the Rising Tides? What was the name of it?
Yeah, Rising Tides.
Iberia
was first. Pandemic Iberia.
Yeah, Iberia was first, and that's because it was held in Spain. Rising Tides was held in the Netherlands. This one is going to be in Italy, and so, of course, they brought in the Fall of Rome. So I really like that. I like the idea that they're stretching their wings with Pandemic. We haven't seen Pandemic the Catapult yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, I mean, so I love all of them. I love all of them. I just played Rising Tide this morning, in fact, and pulled out a narrow victory on easy mode still. It's a very hard one. The ones that only have one type of disease cube, in this case water, or like the Cultists in the Reign of Cthulhu one, or
the rock one.
Yeah, the supplies in Pandemic Legacy Season 2, those are really stressful because any card that you could draw could be, we'll add water somewhere. And so,
so not the legacy ones and not Pandemic itself.
Yeah.
The rest of them. And I'm not talking about, the Cure or any of those things. I'm talking about the themed one-off games. How do you rank them? Where do you put them?
Ooh.
What's your favorite?
I don't know. Right now I'd put Rising Tide at the top. It's just it's so different.
Steve says, where were the championships held the year the Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu?
I think in Massachusetts, isn't that where?
Maybe so.
In Arkham.
I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. What's your
Reign of
first one?
Cthulhu was not in the Survival Series, although, I mean, the name Survival Series sounds like it should have been. No, I would put Rising Tide maybe at the top because it's so different. There is only one type of disease cube. It's the water that you're trying to get. So I haven't explored it fully. What's neat about them is they come with sort of their base game, and then they have additional challenges that are then take them even further away from
My Little Pandemic. So. Sounds like a good use for cube catapults, says Marshall. Jeremy says Iberia hands down the best.
Yeah. I like Iberia a lot. I mean, it's hard to rank them because of that. I mean, because they're all good and different in a way. I think Fall of Rome will be interesting.
It was about, you have to say one way or the other, man. Come on.
No, Fall of Rome will be interesting. I have not played the final version, so the dice rolling seemed a little odd to me. I mean, it works. You march your legionnaires out there, and you roll some dice, and you get to take off the tribes.
I'm totally intrigued by that. Instead of just, well, I'm gonna, and one of the things that, now that looking back on it, one of the things that is kind of boring about the pandemic, it's automatic success. You just move to that city and you wipe out all these things. What if you had to roll dice to beat them? That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So Iberia is really cool as well. I mean, Jeremy, I agree with you. It's hard to rank them because they're all good and unique in different ways. Pandemic Iberia seemed the most like the base game so far. It's not quite as much of a deviation, but I mean, it's really good. I mean, I know plenty of people that like Iberia better than the base game. You can't fly because it's in the 1800s, and so you can sail around the edges, but to get to the interior is hard. So they give you the option to build railways, and so over the course of the game, you're building up your infrastructure, and the more railways you build later in the game, you'll be able to move all around the map pretty easily. So it gives it more, with Iberia, you get more of an arc than you get. I mean, with the base game of Pandemic, you do have a little bit with the more research stations you build, the more you can get around. But unless you have the operations expert, you're usually not building like 5. You're not using all 6 of the research stations. So Pandemic Iberia gives you a nice feel of building up the infrastructure. So
BJ from Board Game Gumbo here. I've got my guest Randy Hoyt from Foxtrot Games, and it's time, Randy, for the Envie game. It's a little game that we play where we talk about, it's a Cajun word for what we really want to play, something that maybe we own, maybe we don't own, maybe we've always wanted to play, maybe we play all the time. But if we had the perfect game group, if you could stop the broadcast right now, Randy, you have a game in mind. Is that right?
I do.
Don't tell us. Don't tell us yet.
I won't. Well, the only hint I'll give is that it is not Pandemic. Because
it's not Pandemic. Oh, that was going to be my first guess.
Looking at the news, knowing we would be talking about this, I figured I should pick a different game than that. So.
Steve says, great thread up on the Dukes of Dice Guild about what mechanic you'd like to see added to your favorite game. Doing a little of that here with Pandemic Chat. That's right. We're seeing all these added things, but you got me excited. I think out of the ones that you've mentioned, the Fall of Rome is the one I want to check out. But Iberia actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to try that. All right, so let's get to the Envie game. We got some viewers here. Randy's got a game that he wants to play. The first question I always ask, so that we can narrow it down to only about 9,000 games, is it competitive or cooperative? And I'm going to guess cooperative.
That's a fair guess. And as I was going through all the games that I've liked this year that I play a lot, I realized I play way more cooperative games than I realized. However, I picked a competitive game.
All right, so competitive game. Second question I usually try to ask, I try to narrow down the designer. Is it an American designer? Is it a European designer? Maybe one of those Asian designers that have really, Jesse Lee and some of the other Taiwanese designers have just been, taken over the Japanese games coming. But I'm going to guess it's an American designer.
It is a European designer.
Wow, man, I'm open 2 here. Is it board-based or card-based? What's the bigger thing?
I think it has a board, but it is very much a card game, I think.
It is a board game, but it's also got cards. Hey, Steve wants to know, was it published in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yes. It has been published. It debuted less than 5 years ago is when it was released.
Okay, all right. Would you say it's a Merit Treasure or Euro or hybrid?
Oh, it is Euro.
It's a Euro. Good. Okay. So we got a European design. Just to recap, everybody, it's a competitive game, European. It's got boards and cards. It's definitely a Euro, and it's been in the last 4 or 5 years. Has it won any awards?
Let's see. I'm going to have to look that one up. It doesn't have any awards on the box. It was critically acclaimed. People liked it. Let me just check BGG real fast on that.
A popular game, right?
Nominee, recommended, nominee. All the ones on BGG are nominees and recommendations.
This one?
For this particular game. So let's say it did not win any major awards that I know of. but it was nominated or recommended for some notable awards, I'll say.
It's not a legacy game, I'm going to guess, right? No.
Is that one of your questions?
That's definitely one of my questions. Is it a legacy game?
It is not a legacy game.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Because the only Euro legacy I could really think of is the one that just came out. So by the brands.
Yeah, the Rise of Queensdale.
Yeah, Rise of Queensdale, right. I looked at it at Gen Con. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if I'll get a group together. Like, we're working through Pandemic Legacy Season 2 right now, and it's slow going. But I'm really
well, Dave Dugal likes to pick on me because I start a lot of these campaign games. I never finish them, you know. Like, we're on Game 6 of Charterstone. We're on May of Pandemic Legacy Season 1. It's just, I got to finish these games.
Nice.
John Schulters. Hey, John, thanks for checking in. He says, does it have a card tray?
John.
Uh-oh, John knows the game.
John might know the game. So John's a developer on Spy Club. And,
a little inside info.
And Spy Club has a card tray because the cards are double-sided, and so we had issue where if you're drawing the top one, you might bump it and see sort of the next few cards. So
we're getting a little inside baseball here. I like that. And nice question, John. And thanks for checking it. And John, I want to check out your game because Spy Club looks pretty cool, man.
So yes. It comes with a card tray.
Oh, it does come with a card tray.
It does.
So Steve O'Rourke says single designer or a team?
Single designer. Well, yeah, it has a single person's name on the box.
It's just throwing me off with this. This has a card tray. What the heck? I know the Flow of History has a card tray, so I'm thinking of, man.
John gave it away. Well, I don't know if he gave it away.
Oh, did he? Has another comment there? I don't see it.
No, just the card tray one.
Okay. So I got to think of that. It's a single designer, you said?
Yeah, single designer. I have it next to me. I'll get the card tray ready to show.
All right. Card tray. All right, to recap, everybody, it's a competitive game. It's a European game with a Euro designer. It's got boards and cards and a card tray, which is apparently a very important clue from John Schulters. Came out in the last 4 or 5 years. Lots of award nominations. Not a legacy game. Is it a history type theme?
It does have a history theme. As a good Euro, the theme is very light on it. But it is there. It is historical.
Man, Concordia does not have a card tray.
Concordia does not have a card tray.
Yeah, I'm trying.
That's a good guess. That's a good guess. It is not Concordia.
It's not Concordia.
Except for the card tray, it fits all the other criteria.
All right, so is it a European history theme?
Yes.
A European history theme. Steve, that's a pretty good hints out there. European history theme. Would you say
it has the name of a European city? Is it?
Oh, it does. Is it Maastricht by T.C. Petty? I don't think so because it's not out yet. So that's just an inside joke. All right, Jason Kingsley said, "I came in late, but I think I know what's going on here."
Jason knows this game. I taught Jason this game. He's the designer of Spy Club.
Okay, yes, that's right. Hey, Jason, thanks for checking this out. So to recap, it's a competitive game. It's European. Both Jason and John know this game based on their comments. Oh, wait, Ulm does not have a card tray. Ulm does not have a card tray. Steve's guessing Ulm. That's not right. I don't know.
Not right.
No. Okay, card tray. Let me think. Does Coimbra have a card tray? Yeah, but it hasn't been nominated for anything yet. Does Lorenzo have a card tray? And it's got the name of a city on it, you said?
It does, yeah. The name of the city. A European city.
Yeah, Game Geek Ninja, that's right. Randy has some ringers working against him. I think they're tweaking his nose a little bit. All right, so think of a city name. Man, not Coimbra. Man.
I'll say
it does have a card tray, though. But
does it? I'll give you a clue about the time.
Port of Niagara does not have a card tray.
It is.
Go ahead.
It is an older game. It came out between 4 and 5 years ago. So it came out over 4 years. It's like almost 5. I think it came out at Essen 5 years ago.
So it's 14 or 15. Yeah, 14 was the year that Istanbul and Concordia were both nominated. I don't know if Istanbul has a card tray. Lisboa? No, that came out last year from Vital and does have a card tray, but wouldn't be Lisboa. Lisboa, yes. Is that up your alley? Vital?
I have not played that one. It might be a little heavier than what I would normally play, but I might play it at a con. Somebody would teach me. That's the
Guilds of London.
Ooh, nope, no card tray there that I know of.
So are we on the European continent, or can we get out to the islands like in London? No,
it is. It's on the continent. I'll narrow it down there.
On the continent. Man. Let's see. All right. So to recap for everybody joining us, competitive European game boards. It's got a board and cards. It's a Euro. In the last 4 or 5 years, so sometime around 14 or 15, right?
No,
13
or 14. It was Essen 2013, I think, is when it came out.
Essen 2013. All right. Yeah. And it's not Istanbul.
Nope.
No, not Istanbul. Oh, let's see. It does not have miniatures, right? No miniatures.
No, it has tiny wood pieces, though.
Yeah, that's not shocking, though, Randy. I mean, it is a European game about a city. That's going to have a lot of little wooden blocks.
True. Well, it doesn't have cubes, so it has little people that are called workers, but you don't place them like workers in a worker placement game. You use them as currency. How's that for another hint?
Wow. Orléans? That's bag building. Doesn't have a card tray. Bruges did not come out. Is it?
That's it. It is Bruges.
It is Bruges. Way to go, Marshall. Fantastic. Wow. Bruges had a card tray in it? I didn't even realize that.
Bruges. Yes. So, yeah, it has 2 card trays to hold the cards.
I did not know that.
So that when you pull them out, you don't. So I guess the story is when it debuted at Essen, it did not have them, but they quickly found out that they needed them because the colors on the cards, the backs of the cards are different based on the color. And so as you were drafting them, you might bump it and be like, oh, the next card is yellow. And so then you'd know that you want to pull from that stack. So,
man, I got to give Marshall props on that one. That's a great one, man. Bruges, wow. You know, I will tell you, I haven't played Bruges, and here's why. Yeah, well done, Marshall, as Steve O'Rourke said. I have not played it, and for only one reason. Oh, now, Marshall, don't even say that. I shouldn't have even posted that up. Google is a beautiful thing. Come on, you're supposed to just take glory in the credit of knowing it right from the bottom of your brain. So, yeah. So I was at Dice Tower last summer, and I've been wanting to learn to play Concordia. It's a game that I've been I have my eyes on, and one of the Dukes of Dice friends was going to teach me. And Sean said, no, I can't play because we're about to start a quick game of Bruges. So we played Concordia. Then me and Alex went play flip ships like 2 or 3 times. I went play Word Slam with the guys from My Hard Board Games. And when I left, they were still playing Bruges like 3 or 4 hours. I think it took them almost 5 hours to play Bruges. And I said, okay, wait a minute. I've got Aquasphere, and that's all the Feld I need. I'm not going to sit there and play a 5-hour Feld.
I play slow. My group has, you kind of multiply the time on the box by 2, and we can play Bruges in 2.5 hours. So.
There must have been some shenanigans going on in that game with Sean Ramirez, because
maybe
that's just too long.
One time I did shuffle too many cards in, so with the expansion it can add 5 players, but you still only use a certain number of cards for each player count. So we're playing 4, but I put in enough cards for 5. And we were playing, and we're like, this is going really long, but my engine's really revving. This is really interesting. But it was because I made the decks too big.
Well, I definitely want to tell John and Jason thanks for coming in and give us some nice little hints, because I don't know if Marshall would have got that. Marshall is a big thematic gamer. He loves his thematic games, and his Euro experience is sadly lacking. He had to bring in his own ringer. You know what? Well done, Marshall, because that would have been a tough one. We'd have probably had to narrow down the designer, and then Steve and I would have just started throwing out some Feld names, Trajan, and whatever else we could get. So, Randy, good game with the Envie game. Hey, Randy, what's your schedule like? Where if people want to catch Foxtrot games out there on the con circuit? I know we're kind of winding down for the year, but there's still some stuff going on. What do you have going?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be at BGG Con
Oh, great.
That I'll be there. We'll have somebody at Essen, John Schulters, who chimed in with the card trade. He'll be going to Essen demoing Spy Club there.
Okay.
And I think we're going to have somebody at PAX Unplugged to running demos of Spy Club there as well.
Well, the Gumbo will be at BGG, so we will make sure you're going to have a booth there, or are you just going to be there to play?
The games will be for sale. We partner with Renegade for retail and distribution, so they'll be for sale in the Renegade booth. I don't know how much I'll be there. I'll probably be in the open gaming hall running demos of the game out there.
Well, all right, board gamers, that is it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I want to thank my guest, Randy Hoyt of Foxtrot Games. Randy, thanks for coming in. And how can people reach you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about the company and our games, you can go to foxtrotgames.com or follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Foxtrot Games. If you just want to follow me and learn what it's like to be a part-time board gamer publisher, you can follow me on Twitter at Randy Hoyt.
Don't forget about our contest. We're giving away Century Spice Roads and Century Eastern Wonders, and all you got to do to enter to win is click on those links with Board Game Gumbo and iHeart Board Games. Subscribe to their YouTube pages, and you'll have a shot at winning those free games. Continental United States only. Randy, you know how shipping is. We're not going to try to kill Game Nerds. Game Nerds is gracious enough to provide us with the free games, so we're going to be sending that out. Hey, the Game Gate Ninja is going to be at BGG, so let's check him out. And Jonathan is checking in. Hey, good to see you, Jonathan. I see Jonathan and I interact a lot on Facebook, so it's cool to have him here on the Gumbo. Go Schulters represent. I'm not sure what that means, but Jonathan, thanks for checking in. And until next time, I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. Laissez le bon temps rouler.
Good night.